centrally controlled, easy to use by the business, and also infusing those intelligence skills that we believe that allow you to do visual perceptions, okay, machine learning capability, problem solving, that we can consume those capability from Microsoft, and also giving you that process or business insight to better understand your business process in a robotic fashion and further enhance those capabilities within your respective business unit at the enterprise level. And along the way, we have this term called the robotic operating model, which basically, we all know what is a traditional operating model, people, process, system. The robotic operating model, the Blue Prism way, it is infusing the digital worker along a traditional target operating model with a methodology that we have enhanced, improved over the last 18 years that we share with our partners and our customers to deploy enterprise connected RPA at scale, securely, and with compliance as well. So that is our vision that we believe in Blue Prism. So, must be easy to use, always business-led. Why business is easy? They are the subject matter expert that they have been so used to the domain of a business process for the last 7, 10 years or more. They are the best person to be able to translate those human activities into a robotic activities. That's why they are the best person that we feel we should empower in the Blue Prism robotic operating platform. And allowing the IT to control the technology, the governance, the compliance of the platform, reaching out to the cognitive services out in the cloud to be able to infuse and evolve your digital worker to do more high-value, intelligent automation within your organization, and in an intelligent and controlled fashion. Right. So these are the 6 skills that we have evolved our digital worker many years ago to now today. So we have visual perception, we have knowledge and insight, we have machine learning and deep learning algorithm that we can now infuse into our digital worker. We have problem solving, we have planning and sequencing, and we have collaboration. So these are the essential skills that Blue Prism has advanced with AI, machine learning capability into our digital worker that you can now consume and infuse those intelligent process into our digital worker to do things better, faster, and more complex business process. So, Blue Prism has recently also announced our connected RPA vision. What it does is having a connected RPA platform that allows you to build digital workforce to automate your enterprise processes, right, into the future. And we also have released our digital exchange where a libraries of ready-made connectors are readily available for download, where you can infuse and start consuming those AI machine learning capability into the platform now, right? And we also have collaborated and opened up our Blue Prism community, be it our customers, partners, and also the developers community to start sharing their knowledge, their libraries, and their insight into a connected, intelligent enterprise RPA platform by reaching out, giving them the platform to reach out and share those capabilities, right? And finally, Blue Prism has recently organized an AI lab where we are continually going to think about the next future of AI. We're working closely with the AI expert within Microsoft to start thinking about what is the next evolution in AI that is applicable to RPA, so to speak. So that is what we believe so. And so we are able to automate more together by having a connected RPA, automate better together with our digital exchange, right? And automate better together with our community, and also automate next into the future of AI that we can now see in our connected RPA. Right? So basically, you can see a very graphical user drag and drop manner to allow the business SME to design their robotic process that do not require development in coding and stuff, like making it easy for business to use. But the whole platform is governed and highly secure, right? All your action is logged, all the robotic process is logged, so that you can go and do your investigation if needed. So Blue Prism is highly secure, highly compliant, highly government in the enterprise RPA space. So finally, which I mentioned earlier on, you can have an RPA platform, but you also have to make it with a governance model, a compliant methodology, okay, and highly secure in your environment, having those intelligence that you can infuse into the Blue Prism connected RPA enterprise platform that can deliver massive robotic process automation, not by your human workforce, but by your digital workforce. Right. So as part of the Blue Prism Technology Alliance program, that's why we partner with Microsoft, and we are also constantly evolving and growing our technology ecosystem to be able to tap into the best of breed capability into the ecosystem of our connected RPA platform, right? And ensuring the quality, and then have that openness with our community, partners and customers to help evolve and evangelize and encourage digital entrepreneur in our connected RPA enterprise platform. I think we have a few minutes left. Is there any questions that you might ask, or? I think 2 minutes left, so any questions? It's a very small
Sound check.
audience.
Yep. Safe space.
So this is a common question for, I think, RPA. So for a new business to integrate RPA, what are the common problems that they will have?
Firstly is the vision, right? And I always say, do you have a vision into the future? Whether are you constantly thinking about how you're going to transform the future of work into a digital workforce? And creating the vision, which require a lot of change management culture, because everybody is very used to human workers, and that we need to find a way to innovate, to encourage adoption of digital workforce, which allows traditional organization to stay agile. Otherwise, the Alipay, the fintech company are very disruptive into a traditional banking and services institution. In insurance, there's also a lot of very agile, disruptive insurance player that don't have the baggage of your traditional AS400 ERP baggages. They are so agile that they are very disruptive in that traditional organization. So having that vision, do not be afraid to innovate and encourage digital entrepreneur, which everybody have in your organization, that you can harvest them into your centralized COE model that encourage that agility in a traditional organization. I think, to me, that is the most critical bit. The rest is just technology, methodology, best practices, which a lot of Blue Prism can enrich that journey. Our partners can enrich that journey. But these two are kind of that overcoming primary consideration that I see a lot of organizations do struggle to step up their journey, RPA journey. Yeah.
Thank you. We can entertain 2 more questions.
Hi, good afternoon. I actually don't have any idea what processes or things that Blue Prism can automate. Can you cite example wherein we can use Blue Prism for?
Yeah, I always say RPA is limited by only your creativity, but we have a lot of use cases. Traditionally, if you have, in the finance department, there is like month-end closing, report reconciliation, where human has to go and harvest data from disparate systems manually into a centralized repository such as Excel, if if they're using Excel, to aggregate those weekly report, month-end report for reconciliation purposes. And large enterprises has many subsidiaries. Imagine aggregating their month-end financial transaction and harvest them into a centralized Excel and report to your CFO is a very time-consuming and human-intensive task. So this is one example. If you move towards the middle office type of example, you have your traditional BPM processes that the user have to go and log into several systems to get data in a BPM process. You can defer your digital worker to start to aggregate and harvest those information from a disparate system into a process, be it your accounts payable, where you need to go and gather your vendor supplier information from your CRM system into your BPM AP workflow, right? So those systems no longer has to be done manually. You can defer the digital worker to help fetch those data to you. And if you, in a front office scenario, you can use chatbots technology where you can ask customers some questions and then they can give some information to you, for example, a change of address. People move from old house to new house. They need to change their address in their bank account, their insurance, and other organizations they do business with. So that technology is traditionally fill in a form, defer to a human worker, then they will check with all your supporting document, and then start updating your new address into their core banking, core CRM, core insurance system. Very time consuming, very low value. Build a chatbot technology with digital workforce. It can now interact with the customer online and get those information and allow the digital worker to update the new address for you. This is one example. Customer onboarding is another example. Opening up new bank account, approving home loan with all those supporting documents that you need to do KYC. This is an example that you can use digital workforce to automate that process. Because otherwise it's very lengthy, lots of document checking, error prone because human is involved, and time consuming and high cost as well. Yeah.
On the collaboration that you have with Microsoft, how is it?
Blue Prism collaborate closely with Microsoft. We have a certified reference architecture on Blue Prism connected RPA or digital worker within their Azure stack. And at the same time, not only doing robotic process, we can start consuming their AI, visual perception services that can do OCR, ICR. We can infuse their Microsoft chatbot into a Blue Prism robotic process. That integration is already pre-built where our platform allow business to drag and drop those capability and start consuming and start innovating this kind of use cases. So from a technology integration perspective, we're already there. We can even send some of the data to do some AML analysis, trend analysis to do fraud detection, right? Which is also some of the capability that we can work very closely with Microsoft.
While that comes up, I'll probably just brief you. So iCertis, we have a solution which is enterprise-wide for contract lifecycle management. So when I say enterprise-wide, I mean like be your sales side, buy side, corporate, inside contracts. All type of contracts is what you can manage with the solution, and it comes over the cloud. Okay, just a quick technical check. Can we have the presentation, please? Yes, perfect. Thank you. Alison, any suggestions? Perfect. Yeah, quick agenda about iCertis and specifically the AI apps. Yeah, just glad to announce that we were the Partner of the Year winner for 2018 last year, and finalist as well for the Manufacturing Award. Back to slide 1. Okay. So yeah, like I mentioned, enterprise-wide contract management. These are a few numbers that we have, which kind of like reduces the administration cost, contracting time. So when talking about accelerating the entire process, contract compliance, which is again important, like cases like new GDPR compliance that comes in, and contracting errors. So while we bring in AI ML into the picture, we're also trying to kind of like reduce on the mundane jobs that need to be done by a human, and obviously also reduce on the number of errors that could possibly happen. These are a few good brands that we work with, Microsoft being a partner company, and then in different fields, automotive, healthcare, IT, consulting, banking, retail, manufacturing, so almost around all different domains that because any business you talk of, you can't live without a contract, and we have our solution almost catering to all those needs. This is kind of like a complete portfolio of what iCertis provides you. Right at the bottom is the AI-infused core service, which basically involves intelligent contract setup. So typically it would be our professional services people who work with customers very closely to kind of set up their contracting needs. There are times also we deal with the legal folk from your enterprises and set up the configuration part of it. Then specific operations and workflows that your enterprise typically takes you through. Supported by governance and risk kind of like portfolio that that specifically is of interest to your enterprise, your domain, and eventually reporting and dashboards, which will kind of like give you an overview of what's been happening and the strategy going ahead. On top of that, ISM business applications are the specific needs, like say a specific solution for sourcing, procurement, say GDPR compliance, proposals, and so on. So they basically, that's targeted at specific workflow needs that the enterprises have. And on the left-hand side, we have, of course, the AI applications. I'll talk about it in the coming up slides. We have very good and tight integration with what we call the ICM experiences. So Office 365, Dynamic 365, Salesforce, so, and as well as integration adapters with DocuSign, Adobe Sign, Workfix, Box, and so on. The idea is that the enterprise, like the people who are like used to do the work of contract management in the traditional way, maybe they do it through Word, they do it through certain systems like Salesforce, they typically don't want to get out of it, but still have the benefits that ICM provides. That is also an option. We integrate very tightly with all these providers already so that your experience remains the same while you get all the benefits that iCertis provides you. AI applications. Yeah, digitization. So like I mentioned in the panel discussion, we still have certain customers who actually have paper-based contracts. So we have a solution for that. Scan those images, and we can import them easily, even scan PDF into the system, and then unleash the data that lies within the contracts. That's our vision, to kind of like bring AI to our day-to-day contracting process. So even kind of like as mundane as a job of reading a document which is 300 pages long and finding out who are the signatories, who are the parties involved, what are the dates, what are the payment terms been negotiated. Why not let the machine do that for you, and you just kind of like review it and finally have a sign off on that. So that's our target. These three are the main kind of like aims of why AI behind the solution. So accelerate, like I said, while you bring all your legacy contracts into the system, you want to do that with less of human work, so reduced times and reduced errors. That's accelerate. Protect is now that you have all the data digitized, you can basically have risk analysis done on top of it, maybe identify your obligations, compliance with different norms, and that's why protect, and eventually optimize. Once you have the data, you can find out what are your obligations, you can find out what are your entitlements through that using AI ML. And that's how you optimize. You, again, reduce lots of manual efforts and timing there. This kind of like just how the AI/ML kind of piece works and fits into the system. So we have, say, a sample contract coming in. OCR, of course, like I mentioned, if we have scanned TIFF or PDF images, it can actually be broken down into, so a contract precisely consists of clauses and metadata around it. So we have the clause discovery and metadata discovery as the kind of like targeted applications here. Identification of clauses, there are categories, and all that happens with respect to the particular enterprise taxonomy. So we work closely with the customer to kind of like understand what taxonomy you have it already in place, and work with that taxonomy, have the models trained accordingly so that they are more accurate and relevant to the contracting needs of that particular enterprise. Then we have clause matching services. Typically, the legal folk have kind of like done their part of work wherein they've identified certain clause library per se, which has gone a lot of legal attention. So we want to leverage that work already and do a comparative and provide a comparative view against third-party paper. Typically, when the contracts come in own paper, you have almost the entire control over what goes into the document. But this kind of like solves the problem of handling it third-party paper. That's some key insight to it. Metadata discovery, obligation discovery, as I talked about. Even tables, because a lot of information like SLAs and so on comes into tables. We have the capability to also extract that information out and provide SLAs. With Microsoft, there's a bunch of things that we kind of like collaborate on. Azure Data Storage, of course. We have our solution over the Azure cloud. We use cognitive APIs for, say, named entity recognition and other smart APIs. Search and translation services, of course. We have our clientele across the globe, so translation becomes, again, a very critical piece in it. While I have these details about 4 primary applications that we support, I actually have a follow-up video which I'm going to play, which probably, instead of me talking over it, the video will kind of like give you even a visual thing of how it looks. It's actually a real demo that I'm going to play for you. So I'm not sure how I'll be able to click on this link. If I can have some technical assistance to be able to click on this and let the YouTube video play, please. No, I think that has taken us to the next slide. I'm taking us back to the slide, and the video is linked. So if we are able to click on the play button right there. Nope. No problem. So like I already have the slides with me. So yeah, the first app that we have, a quick time check actually. How much time do we have? Julie? 5 minutes, perfect. So the Digitize app, like I mentioned, it basically allows you to bring in all your legacy contracts and even paper-based, kind of like image-based contracts into the system. And once that data is available, there's a bunch of applications coming up that you can do on top of that data. So that's your Digitize app. Discover app is basically focused at extracting specific information out of the contracts, which I kind of like mentioned, like the key metadata values, the key obligations, the key clauses, the compliance, and so on. So that comes with the Discover AI app. The Negotiate app basically helps you in the authoring process in the contract lifecycle management. So we have a very tight integration with Microsoft Word, because most of the people kind of like who do contract authoring are already used to do it in Word. So we have an AI add-in that you see just right besides your contract, and through that you can discover the clauses. If it's a third-party paper or own paper, you can discover the clauses within it, do a comparative analysis and find out what other similar clauses exist in your library, do a replacement of the clauses if needed, specific metadata, redlining. So all type of negotiations can be supported through this application, and the experience is through Microsoft Word. And finally, the Visualize app. Once you have all that, you also at top level want to kind of get a complete view of what all is happening around your enterprises, all the dealerships that you're dealing with. So the Visualize AI app kind of like gives you that oversight as to, say, across this location, what are the deals that I'm currently looking at? Maybe things that are blocked, maybe things that are high risk, maybe things that are going really good, and so I should invest more in it. So that kind of a visualize application through this, and you can also take specific actions right from the visualization. So it also gives you an ability to do kind of like bulk operations at the same time while you're visualizing it. So yeah, that was precisely with the applications. Just a few more feedback questions. So this is the recognition from Forrester and Gartner as a leader in the contract management. A quick last note about blockchain, which I also mentioned as part of our panel discussion. So we are also taking the contracts and kind of like deploying it at the edge. Our vision is to have autonomous contracting. So the contracts, basically, once they have the data, they can actually interact with what can be optimized and what is risky. And eventually, depending on external criteria, they can take their own decisions. So that is the idea. So through the blockchain, basically, the deployment would be on a permissioned blockchain, wherein the contracts would be deployed as smart contracts, executable contracts, which can be triggered on any external events. Say my supply in the godown goes down by number 10, and new supply contract can be initiated, auto-initiated. So you don't really need a human kind of like person to kind of like take care of this. This can be definitely automated, and so on. That's just one simple example. And with this, we actually did a PR recently, a POC with Daimler, wherein we have the compliance requirements through the entire supply chain kind of like deployed onto a permissioned blockchain and demonstrated it through that. So I think that's pretty much I had. We can take questions.
All right, questions? Anyone?
No one? Okay, I did a
I
really
have a
good
question.
presentation, I guess. Please,
What's
Julie.
your pricing model? How do you like charge? Is it subscription based?
Yes, it is indeed subscription-based, annual subscription and per user. So once you
Do you
kind
do
of
the
like
setup fee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once you have the user, basically it's unlimited access, of course, to the all the applications.
Philippine friendly pricing.
Yeah. So I think I'll just have you talk to my sales guys.
All right. If you have
So
further
please,
questions,
please reach out. Yeah.
very good. If you're shy, asking, okay, one question.
Sorry.
Minimum number of users.
Okay, I think, again, I'm not probably the right guy, more technical here, I'm sorry, but I'll talk to you right after we have a sales representative, Vinod, who's at the booth just outside the ballroom, and we can definitely talk more after the session so that he can provide you more answers on that.
For the clause finder functionality,
Yeah.
what languages are you supporting?
Oh, we are supporting all Latin-based languages as of now, and we are exploring other languages too. So, yeah.
Did that answer? Okay. Final question over there.
Hi, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon.
Do you also cater digitization of resolutions, legal resolutions based from court resolutions or any resolutions po as a contract po?
Sorry, could you please elaborate a little bit more on that?
Could you digitize? Yes, ma'am. Legal rulings, paper as legal memorandums or laws
Yes,
written
yes.
in paper. Can we digitize
Of
it
course.
using the IC?
Yes,
please?
yes,
Okay.
indeed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay. No more questions? All right. But he'll be around,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Okay, last. We still have like room for one question.
Okay.
Do you have a capability to integrate Adobe products?
Yes, in fact, Adobe is one of our clients now. And we also have integration with Adobe Sign, for example, for digital signatures. So yeah.
Right. And then automated root cause analysis is essential. You've got 4.8 million relationships. You know how they're hooked together. But if something goes wrong, you need the tool to work it out and say, that someone screwed up this bit of code and this Java statement to this database is taking 20 seconds instead of 1 second. Right? So fix that piece of code and it'll come back to life. Right? And you want to quantify user impact. Right? If you have a failure and it affects 1 or 2 users, annoying. If it impacts 10,000 users, disastrous. Right? So you need to know when something goes wrong, not only what the fault is, but what the impact is so you can prioritize remediations. Right? So, I don't know if you've had this experience before. You have the design that's intended, then you have the user experience. Right? Path goes the wrong way. Right? So what you end up with is frustrated users. Right? Everyone ever hopped on a website and you're trying to work out what to do and you can't work out where to click because it's black magic. Right? And you get frustrated and you give up. Right? So what you do is you go to the competitor. Who here's booked a flight online in the Philippines? Did it work the first time? Every time? Really? Yeah. So, I've got some airlines where I've had to rebook 5-6 times, especially when you go to pay. And the bank screws up because their interconnect screws up. And I booked a flight for 5 people, all the passports, everything. And it fails, and you've got to go put it in again. The last time that happened, I just went and booked for another airline. I flew via Hong Kong instead of direct. It was easier. Right. So, most importantly, you damage your brand. Right? You lose revenue. And you've lost the market share. Okay. Now, to go into my example, airline users, right? Usually ask that question, who here's booked online? Everyone puts their hand up. You say, who's had it fail? Everyone keeps their hand up. Right? So the thing is, this is a real use case, the one we did. The airline will remain unnamed. Right? But they had a lot of failings at online booking, especially when it was busy or under load, when they had a seat sale. Right? So everyone's logging on and the thing fails. Right? And we did a proof of concept with one, and what we monitored, 900 bookings failed. Right? The thing about that is that's 4 to 6 empty planes, assuming some people retry and succeed. So you can imagine from an airline's point of view, if you lost enough seats to have 4 or 5 planes empty, that's a lot of money. And what they're doing is the old finger pointing. Right? It's not them, it's the third party. The third party saying it's them. Third party being the people doing the financial side. Okay? So what the solution was, we put in Dynatrace, which Mervyn presented this morning. So we mapped the infrastructure, we mapped the database, we mapped the interconnect to the other company, we mapped the web page, and we watched everyone logging on. Right? We mapped everything with AI, so we knew exactly how it fitted together. And just in the POC, we identified where the cause was. And it was the third party who was saying, no, it's not them. And every one of those 900 getting dropped off worked in the airline. The moment they passed it to the other party to do their bit, periodically, they would just get lost. Okay? The thing is, it's actually dollars. I made an error there. $0.004, right, per web hit on the site, roughly in cost to deploy Dynatrace. So if you do the math, that's not really expensive, especially if you want a semi-decent conversion rate, right? So it doesn't cost a fortune, but it's a very solid business case. If you've got 4 or 5 empty planes, and for every hit on your website over a year, it's a fraction of $1, like a fraction of a cent, right? To track, monitor, understand the user experience, understand the performance, it's worth the money. So what the objective is that you want to do digital transformation, you want good user experience, you want to, it doesn't work, modernize operations and accelerate innovation, right? All the standard, stuff, right? The thing is, what people are doing is watching dashboards. When things goes wrong, they run into a war room, sit around the table, right? Point fingers at each other. then eventually they'll work out, well, usually reboot the server, hopefully it'll come back. Right? That's the traditional way of doing things. Right? It's not very effective. It ruins the user experience. It extends delays. It's very frustrating. What you want to have is where it's automated. So your applications are being monitored. People are not doing it. The system's doing it. When something goes wrong, it says, you have a problem. It's impacted this many people. This is what's causing it. Okay? So that's the automation AI. So the way it does is it takes all the data from all the different components that make up your environment. It builds a model of all the relationships, multi-layered model through the application, all the dependencies. And that employs artificial intelligence and expert knowledge, so it knows what the applications are, it knows how they behave, it knows how they interact. And from that, it gives you automated workflows, root cause, correlation, and tells you where the problems are. Right? So there's an example where it's done a discovery, and it's mapped the dependencies on an application. So on the left, you've got a East US Azure region, you've got a Azure server, you've got a .NET server, you've got a series of services running on it delivering an application. When something goes wrong, it tells you you've got user degradation. It tells you on the right the root cause, that it's a Tomcat, CPU saturation. It's degraded the response time. It's now 9.44 seconds. So it tells you all about it. Mervyn did a demo this morning, so I'm not going to do a demo again. It tells you about the user experience. What are your users seeing? How badly they're impacted? How many users are impacted? Right? And it measures the quality of service. So the thing is, this doesn't just work when it's broken, right? It's working all the time when it's good. So it's baseline user experience. It's learning what is normal, right? It's also looking at your bounce rate and your hit rate. Out of how many people hit your site, how many give up and go away? Where do they give up and go away? What page? What page do people get lost? Where do they get frustrated? And if you're not sure, again, I think Mervyn showed this morning, you can replay their sessions. You can see them with their mouse wandering around the page trying to work out where to click before they give up and go to your competitor. Okay. So in summary, right, the older type systems that use rules and thresholds, they don't work. The world's changed. It's too complicated. Right? Anyone can in a little lab can write a set of rules to make a system look like it's working. In the real world, in a large, distributed, potentially worldwide business application, right, you need automation, you need AI. Right? So the only way to monitor modern applications, and that's one of the reasons why I hear all this, AI this, AI that, is because things that just got so complicated, you need automation. Right? Remember customer experience. Millennials especially have very little tolerance. You try and book a flight and the airline messes you around. There's 1 million Trivago, for example, for hotels. There's 1 million sites we can go and book with someone else. Right? So if you get someone's attention, you need to keep it. Right? So user experience is everything. So you're not only going to monitor it, you've got to protect it. When something goes wrong, issues happen, things break. It's the nature of the world, especially with people involved. Right? But the thing is, it's not whether something goes wrong, the mythical 5 nines availability, right? But what happens is when something goes wrong, it's how quickly you fix it, how quickly you resolve it, and get the service back up to what your users are expecting. So, ta-da!
All
Any
right.
questions?
Questions?
Stunned silence.
Good.
Ava did, oh, there we go. I can say Ava did really good or really bad.
I just want to ask, how do you map the applications to the Dynatrace? What protocol do you use?
It's not really protocol. It's got an intelligent called OneAgent, and you load it on the machines, and if they're running Java, .NET, JS, PHP, it links in at a code level and monitors all the internal functions of the application, including all the communication with all the other servers, all the communication to databases, right down to code level. So it'll tell you this is the SQL that was sent from this Java applet and this machine took this SQL to this server instance. So it's sucking it in at that level and building the model automatically.
Question. In what life cycle of an app Dynatrace is most applicable or most effective?
Actually, it's really in Europe, and that's used for development.
Development
From development.
stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, building it,
Interesting.
then instrumenting it to see if it works. That's like building a car, and the first time you test drive it is when you've sold it, right? So, I mean, you're building an app. You should be monitoring the app as you're building it to baseline performance, understand how it's working, especially if you're doing DevOps and that sort of thing, right? So one of our biggest customers in the Philippines, they use it primarily in the development area, in the DevOps, monitoring the production system, but also all their development of new code and as they push it out. So it's really for the whole life cycle.
Got it. Any more questions? Okay, one more question before we move on.
So you mentioned Azure. So how about if our tools, or I mean our apps, are deployed in AWS?
You get your bill for lunch earlier, Joe.
It works exactly the same. It works both in-house on Azure, AWS, Google, right? So it's certified across all of them. And a lot of customers have both. They'll have their in-house, but they'll have both Azure and AWS. So if you've got an application that's distributed between all three, it will map it as one application across all three.
I'm going to grab this as well. I liked what Stephen had to do over there. All right. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Lee Bergs. I'm based in Shanghai, actually, so this is great to come down and get some clean air and some lovely, lovely warm weather, to be perfectly honest with you. As she mentioned, I'm with Logitech, and Charlene Suarez Javier is the country manager down here in Philippines, so if you have any questions specifically from a local manager, please feel free to talk with her. I hope you don't mind. I tend to, we did this with one of our partners last time. We had kind of threw the conversation back and forth and just had it a little bit more integrated here. But I wanted to talk just a little bit about today's landscape, talk about where we're at from a video conferencing perspective. And I Googled this week, right on Google. And who would think that I'm in Manila, Philippines, talking about meetings in a nightclub? I think it's amazing. I think this is absolutely epic. This will definitely be one memory from my lifetime. But read all the key topics of what meetings are, ... Doesn't sound pretty interesting, right? Let's be perfectly honest. When you think of a meeting, you think of maybe you got to go give that report that you don't want to give, something bad happened, you got to meet with your boss, you got to sit through 2 hours of an annual, quarterly, monthly report. Enjoyable, right? So there's a lot of different challenges that we're trying to overcome. That's the first one right away, just the overall concept of a meeting. Now, we're trying to get rid of these pesky remotes, right, in the rooms. I was just in Japan this week, and the room was, of course, literally in all Japanese, and even just trying to fiddle around with that, I struggled with our own, local remotes there. In addition, how exciting does this look? You walk into a room like that, you mean to tell me you're going to be full of energy like the lovely lady here has been presenting? This is traditional video conferencing, if you think about it, for a majority of us. This is not very exciting. This is not very conducive, and there's tons of audio and video problems that you see right here, but it's so common. And here's one of our competitors right here. Just from a connectivity standpoint, to be able to then manage all the background, manage all the services, the cost, the fees, the integration, pretty heavy. So let's simplify this. Let's talk quickly about form factor, about flexibility, and about the platform specifically. So talking right here, we're going to introduce our Rally camera today. Charlene and I, we have our Logitech booth over at the event. So you see just a camera right here and think, okay, great, I've seen a camera. Great, why is this guy really wasting my time here? And I could have gone to another track instead. But the cool thing about it is all the integration underneath is where, not to get into too many features, but we're talking about 4K, we're talking about 90-degree field of view, we're talking about seamless pan-tilt zoom. There's there's a very clear, easy functionality, and it's all USB based. It's USB plug and play. There's no contracts, there's no services. You buy it, you hook it up, and it literally works. And so where we fit into this whole AI conversation is through our new technology called RightSense. And this is a really amazing situation where Logitech is traditionally known as hardware manufacturer. A lot of you see Logitech and think mice, keyboards, webcams. Why are they up here, right here today? We've gotten into the video conferencing space just about 7-8 years ago. We've sold over 100 million webcams worldwide. We know a thing or two about video in general, and our audio performance. If you know Ultimate Ears, a UE Boom, any of the speakers that we have, our audio performance is very strong. So we thought, let's start combining some of these solutions. Then we stumbled upon the cloud as it was continuing to adopt and increase in usage around the world. So there's 3 key factors in RightSense. You've got right light, right sight, and right sound. And this is where some of that machine learning, that artificial intelligence that Stephen and some of the other colleagues over there have been talking about. So gone are the days where if you look like have you ever been in a meeting where you're meeting with someone that looks like they're on the witness protection program? Where all you see is a silhouette of the person, and you're like, I think that's Tracy, but I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to go with it. Their backlit is terrible. Those days are gone using our hardware. And so we'll get into how this all plays into where it goes from nowadays. But right sight, this is where machine learning meets application. Where what happens is, from a right sight standpoint, when a human being walks in and it goes from 2 to 3 people, the camera is able to detect this human figure and then able to adjust. Now we're not talking about voice tracking. There's nothing more annoying than the camera constantly moving. You yourself sitting there aren't constantly moving your head right now. Why should a camera do that? So the idea is that it adjusts based off the people moving in the room, whether they leave or come and go. That's it. So to give that optimum viewpoint right there, because so much of communication is not necessarily always about words, but just kind of the body language, the participation in the meeting and in the room. Last but not least is right sound, and I'll talk about that quickly in a minute as we get into our speakers and our microphones here. So, talking about the mic pods here. Ooh, exciting, a mic pod, right? But the idea is where we at when we break it out a little bit further. We've got 4 low distortion microphones built in, where you've got 8 form factor expansion, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. You've got 8, what am I trying to say? The beamforming mics built into the microphone there specifically. And so what you're able to do is isolate the sound without picking up so much background noise, so you can be heard and still hear without there being that interference within the audio experience. You can actually daisy chain up to 7 of these mic pods within a room. And we could probably have a nice little time here in this in this place that we're at, this nightclub where we're at right now. From a speaker standpoint, we might be able to compete with this surround sound system that we have here. I bet. So are we gonna be able to come back here, by the way? Do we get like entry into this? Really? Really? Okay, we have 1 person so far here at 10 p.m. So we offer these speakers that are built in as well, but what we've done is we've separated the speakers and the microphones so that the speakers are now at the front of the room. Traditional video conferencing has the speakerphone in the middle of the room, so you tend to talk to where you hear instead of looking at the people that you're meeting with. And so what we've done is moved the speaker and separated it for an optimal audio experience to be able to enhance the overall video collaboration experience. I want to introduce one more product, and then we'll move on to the next presenter here. Introducing Logitech Tap. This one just came out literally less than a month ago. It isn't even available yet in Philippines or Shanghai or any of the markets just yet, but it will be. It will be here in the coming months. So what this is a one-touch display. When you walk into a meeting room, you literally hit join, and all of a sudden the meeting pops up. Now you're asking, well, how does that work? We're going to get into that, but it's Teams. Microsoft Teams is the secret sauce, so to speak, to be able to have this one-touch join. And in fact, I did this for our vice president just a couple weeks ago. We had a test model in the room. We had a big quarterly meeting, you know, the big 2 or 3 hour meeting. Everybody was looking forward to that one. So what I did, I walked in, set up the meeting, and all I did was walk in, press the one-touch join, and walked out. About 3 minutes before the meeting, camera was set up, turned on, audio, video ready to go. Everybody walked in and was so used to that 5-7 minute awkward delay. You can't figure out how to make things work, and it was just ready. That's how life is. That's how video conferencing should be. And so that's what we've been able to perfect thanks to Microsoft Teams and cloud video adoption. So this tap integrates this entire solution into one right here. So it's one-touch display, comfortable, sleek design, and then there's different mounting options that we'll talk about here. What's cool, it has this anti-glare, and I always have to look up to figure out what this word and how to pronounce it, oleophobic coating. What it means is basically it doesn't smudge or smear when people are constantly touching it. I feel like they need to put this in at customs when you always have to walk in and do the fingerprints. I hate touching those, by the way. My OCD kicks in as soon as I'm always like wiping it next to the, you know, to the fingerprint coating. But this right here, what it does is basically just minimizes any of the kind of the gunk that would stay on there. So there's 3 different mounting options for tap in a room to make this a professional enterprise grade solution for your video conferencing. You've got a table mount, you've got a riser mount, and then you've got a wall mount. And you see there is a cable, there is a cord, there's an HDMI just for screen sharing if you want to share locally. And then there, of course, is the power cord. And so we do this, so we get questions about wireless and this and that. Trust me, when you're in a corporate setting, when you're going to meet with your boss, when you're going to meet with a customer, the last thing you want is it to fail. You want to make sure your solution is secured. And so therefore, we've hardwired all of our solutions right here into one single Cat6 cable. So who knew cabling could be this exciting? But this one is actually a showstopper for a lot of the resellers in our business. So here's the layout right here. We've made it very simple. You think it's small, medium, and large size meeting rooms that we all meet in, that we all have. This would be a little bit more of a larger setting, but I'm pretty confident that our enterprise solution would be able to accommodate this. So we talk about flexibility, and I just want to show a couple of use cases of then what this is like in real life, in the application of a meeting room. So right here, we've got a small meeting room size right here. You've got tap right in the middle of the room. You have the Rally camera. You see the speaker on the top of the television. So where you're hearing the voice and you're seeing the people is the same location. And so therefore, then you have the mic pod in the middle of the room. And it's the same layout in a larger room, in a conference room, in a boardroom, a classroom, and even up to a webinar. We've been using our solution in a lot of our webinars as well recently. And honestly, this is a showstopper. When you're able to just literally one-touch join in a meeting, it's pretty phenomenal. So last but not least, the platform, I already spoiled the big ending here. It's Microsoft Teams. It's the perfect timing to be able to have this full integrated solution thanks to Logitech, thanks to Microsoft Teams, and the ability to be able to collaborate literally worldwide with the push of one single button right now nowadays.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Hello, so I'm the first Filipino speaker, and I'm based in Antipolo, not everywhere else. Anyway, again, I'm Ruel. During the plenary, you met my CEO, and we are part of Performance Advantage and Dynamic Global Enterprise Systems Incorporated. It's a Filipino-owned company. Majority of that is owned by Mr. Rene Santos. So we are a Microsoft partner. We started in 2002, and up to now, we are promoting Dynamics NAV or Dynamics 365 Plus, the LS Central. So for about myself, for about 22 years, I'm into IT business solutions, and I was the first one who brought in Microsoft retail management system here in the Philippines. So I know the retail industry. I talked to retail owners, and one of their objective is really to capture the traffic. How many customers are walking in and how many customers are buying. So right now, I'm going to talk about retail traffic insights and how to drive profitable decisions. Okay? Most of you are familiar with this. This is most of the traffic counting device being used currently in the Philippines. No? It's manual. Most of the time, it's being used by security guards, no? Just to count people coming in. You know? And one of our clients, one of the malls in Mandaluyong, biggest malls in Mandaluyong, I had talked to them, why do they need the traffic counter, data? And they said, the CFO said, the COO said, they need the data really for analysis and to entice retail companies to go to their malls, no? So really, the traffic data is very important, not only to the mall operators, but also to the retail owners. Why? Because they want to know the conversion. They want to know how many transactions and how many people came in, and the conversion rate. So take a look at these slides. There are 6 potential buyers, but only 2 bought. And the conversion rate is 33%. So if you're the retail owner or mall operators or, so you just want to analyze how come the 4 potential buyers didn't buy. How come only 2? Is there something wrong with my staff? Am I understaffed? So again, the traffic data is very useful to them. So since I mentioned the staff management, so the traffic data is being used to schedule your resources in the stores. So to cater to at least the number of customers, trying to buy your goods, trying to buy their goods, and to at least give a good customer experience. So take this case. If a store has 3 shifts, you have the morning and the afternoon and the evening shift. So clearly, if you look at the sales and average ticket for afternoon and evening shifts, they're really making the most of the sales, compared to morning. But if you plug in the traffic data, you'll see that the morning shifts are better, better in converting sales and revenues. So for the customers who walk in to the morning shifts, they've converted 75%. So again, there are a lot of factors why. Maybe the afternoon and the evening were understaffed, or maybe the morning teams are really good in enticing the potential buyers to buy. So again, it's being used by the management to assess the performance of the store. Also, it's being used to measure effectiveness of marketing campaign. Is it really successful? So just like when you launch a website, you want to know how many times it was visited. It's the same thing in a retail store, in a mall. How many customers walk in, especially if you have marketing campaign. So clearly, without the traffic data, if you just look at the sales figures, you'll see that the scenario A, B, and C, they're close. The sales are close. But if you plug in the traffic data, you'll see the difference. The conversion rate, etc. And that's the measurement of how marketing campaigns are effective. Also, it can be used to understand the hours of operation because it can save the cost of operating a retail stores. So if you do count per hour, you'll see the peak hours, whether you're picking at noon or on the afternoon after office hours, so you can really balance the staff, and again, save cost. Also, performance measurement, employee performance, and incentive management. Again, just to cite an example, for these 3 employees, Stephen, Ryan, and John, if you look at the sales, clearly Ryan is the top salesperson. But if you plug in the traffic data, clearly John is doing very, very well in converting revenues, sales for the company. So again, the management can decide. Maybe John can be, shift to Ryan's position because he can really convince buyers to buy because of the conversion rate. Can also be used to assess the location, whether you have a bad location or just bad management. So again, if you look at the sales for the 3 locations, mostly they're okay, but if you plug in the data, location 1 or 2 has a problem. It has the highest traffic, but the conversion is very low. So is it really a bad location or just bad management? So again, it's being used by the management to assess. And the traffic data is very important. Queue management. So if you're operating a coffee shop or restaurant, it can determine, how the queues, how long it is, and you can really assess if you need additional terminals to at least cover the queues in your restaurants. So with all these things, PASI or DGES is offering a product, called Dynamic Track. This is our traffic counting unit. It's not a manual traffic device. This device has a camera inside to count customers walking into your stores or to the malls. It's connected to the cloud, and that data will be stored to the cloud to be accessed by the customers, real time. There are existing counting devices in the market, just like us, in addition to the manual counting. But the problem is, it's really pricey. The hardware is not that simple. The installation also is very complex, the maintenance as well. And the average upfront single unit cost is more than $5,000. If you visited our booth, our traffic counting device is just 3,000 pesos per counter per month. So that's a very big price difference. So it's being placed after the entrance door so that it can count people coming in. It can detect adults, only buyers. You can exclude to count children's, pets, strollers, etc. Only the adults will be counted based on height, size, etc. And it's easy to install, 30 minutes to 1 hour. And it needs internet to connect to the cloud and to start automatically count. It can also do offline counting. So, for example, if the internet connection has been disrupted, it can still count offline. So, on your right side, this is the normal CCTV. But on the left side, that's our device counting. So it darkens a bit, so it counts. So this is our counting device. This is the normal CCTV camera. Another view. So when we install it, we put a demarcation line so that when a customer walks in, the device would count. So that's the line. So on the left side, that's the exit part. It's not counting the exit. It counts when people are walking into your store. It counts real time. You can do every minute, per 15 minutes, per 30 minutes, or per hour count. And customers can be given a dashboard for them to check the count. So this is online all the time, so that they can export it to Excel and do the conversion. Right? So, since we are a partner of Microsoft, we integrate it with Microsoft Dynamics 365 and LS Central, so that the data can be readily available to all owners, management of the company, of the retail company. So this is the dashboard. It counts every day on a per hour basis. So it's built in already. So every time, and it converts also. You have the conversion rate, the average ticket, etc. All right, so what's next? Right now, we're developing the AI to do predictive analysis. So it will give you something like if there's a, like for example, for any weather like storms or typhoon, it will give some information to the owners or to the retailers that there will be few people coming in, or if there will be an event, especially for historical sales purposes, like for example for Mother's Day. So it will consider the last year data, and then it will tell you that, like for example, there will be 2,046 predicted counts coming in because it's Mother's Day or it's payday. So right now it's being developed. We're gonna launch it by Q2. So part of the AI plan. Right now, it does the counts and the conversion automatically, but we will go to a little bit of predictive analytics to help really retailers to plan ahead, especially if there will be some campaigns, promos, etc. So again, yeah. So please visit our booth for actual product demo. We have that already. So you can just walk in and out, and it's counting real time. And you can visit our site. Again, this is a cheaper version of a really good device so that you can get the traffic data and do the conversion and see for future savings of your operations. All right, any questions?
Yes.
Hi, question is, can it detect employees who work for that retail store?
That's a good
Like,
question,
if it's-
actually. Yeah.
If that person comes in and out and
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, it's being counted, no, all the staff. But take the case of our existing customer. They only have 4 staff per day. So even if it's being counted, you know that you only have 4 employees, walking in and out. No? So at the end of the day, it will, offset, no, because you know that you have 4 people really in the store. There is a future development that we put an RFID tag for the employees so that it will not be counted. There's also a workaround wherein when you put a demarcation line at the door, the employees will be guided that not to pass through that demarcation line, that invisible demarcation line, so that they will not be counted. But then again, right now, all employees are being counted, but since...
There are workarounds.
Yeah, there are workarounds on that.
Thank you very much. I think I'm more comfortable on the dance floor than on the stage in this place, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, feel free.
Please don't ask me to repeat that later when the cocktails are starting. I might even be too shy to be on the dance floor. So I just had a few comments. So you might be the first Filipino speaker, but I'll be the first Danish speaker. Okay, but I will keep it in English just for understanding. And I also couldn't help to think earlier, he just left, the gentleman from Logitech. He was in Japan, and I'm sure a lot of you have been to Japan. The most horrifying experience in Japan is not to walk into a meeting room and see everything in Japanese. It is to go to a toilet. And you don't know which button to press and what's going to happen next. If you press the wrong thing, you might end up in big trouble. So, okay, I'll see if this works for me. The team here has been very helpful to reorganize a few slides, so we'll see where it goes. So this is me in 1963. So we have been working on eating content and developing solutions for content ever since those days. I don't think my parents had any idea that I will be speaking on the stage in a nightclub in Manila, 55 years later, and showing this picture. And my mom, she always had difficulty on understanding exactly what do I do. And I'm not sure this kind of thing would have helped the understanding. So anyway, this is a start. And since we don't have a monitor, I have to look back here as well a few times. So to the more serious side, more than half of the employees in enterprises across the globe, they spend a considerable amount of time every day to look for information. Based on, this is a Forrester research, but I'm sure you can recognize from the day-to-day work you have in your own organizations that a lot of people in whatever kind of department spend time to locate information, whether they are in HR, finance, legal. That is a challenge we have. And one of the biggest challenges is the disconnect between the digital information and the analog information. I meet a lot of organizations that would like to do a digital transformation of their entire company. And then we ask them, so what about the content which is paper-based? And they're like, oops, okay, what do you do about that? And there was a question earlier, so can you scan that? Yes, you can. Of course you can scan it. And what we will talk about here is what happens when you bring the digital content that you have in your data centers, in your cloud, whatever cloud it is, and bring it together with the paper-based information that you have across your organization. So the scope of this is quite massive. I mean, we have many clients who convert from paper to digital 2, 3, 4, 5,000 pages per day. Some of them capture 1 million pages per month. So literally we are talking about the content that is in digitized format being billions of characters. And if you look at the way that the data is stored, for example, HR documents, maybe you have a legal requirement to have them stored for a certain period, but then there's always the person who comes back and says, I couldn't claim my SSS because your company didn't pay in 95. And you knew that you paid, so you have to find the transaction that you did with SSS. So in reality, documents are stored for much longer time. Maybe the exception of financial transactions such as invoices, delivery notes, which is as per BIR requirement 10 years. But contracts, legal documents for the length of the contract plus another 10, 25 years. So if you take a look at the, as an example, it's just to pull out one of them, the employee record, the 201 file. This is a typical way that you would store a 201 file. So you would have an employee number, you'll have an employee name, and then you'll have a document type. So if I want to find employees, let's say health records, medical claims for the past 10 years, I now have to open each one of them and read what is on that document to be able to identify the information that I want to have. Because the way the technology has been implemented is, if it is paper-based format, you probably might as well give up. But if it is digital, you open each of these images on your screen and you start to read to find the data that you're looking for. Okay. The what-if challenge or the what-if problem is when things change. And given the length of the storage of the information, 10 years, 25 years, things will definitely change. This is the only constant that we have, that things are changing. And now we have things like data privacy. We have Data Privacy Act in the Philippines, and in Europe they have a General Data Privacy Protection Act, and in California they have another one, and they will have another one, and they will have another one. Data privacy is very important today. Now, what happens if you are asked to provide information that you have in paper-based format or that you have in your document management system in digital format if you don't have access to that information. So the key here is to be able to accurately locate the information. And if a person say, I would like to find my records or retrieve my records, you have a legal obligation to do that. So what we have done here is that looking at the traditional keyword search that you have, it's obsolete in this environment. It's not the right way to find information anymore. It doesn't give you any value except for ad hoc use of information. So we are implementing a cognitive search in our document management system, in our content management solution, to be able to give users more relevant information and to be able to embed that relevant information into business applications. So we start out by capturing documents like everybody else, but we use the Microsoft Azure recognition. That means that we use the computer vision of Microsoft Azure to convert every single piece of paper into a digital image, which is a PDF with text behind. Then we use language understanding to detect the language and detect keywords, key phrases, entities, locations, companies, people, and all of that goes into the cognitive engine to be able to basically create a mesh where you can connect data from one document to another document. Based on this information, we create the Enadoc smart tags. So Enadoc is using a different kind of approach to finding information than the standard box where you search. Enadoc uses a tag cloud. So when you open Enadoc, you have a tag cloud that has been created using the cognitive engine. And that gives you basically the information that you're most likely to be looking for right now. It's based on your organization, it's based on your job function, it's based on the department that you work for, and that is like a summary of your intelligence in your system. Based on this, we kick off workflows. So we have this Enadoc Zen, which is a robotic process automation. So based on content in your solution, say for example, you have an appearance of a name in 5 different legal cases or 5 different employment contracts, then that will kick off a workflow for somebody to validate if there's any compliance issue in that. So the workflows can be developed in many different ways, and it can be processes for issuing a credit note. It can be to report internal compliance issues. It can be used to hire new people. It can be used to offload Active Directory addresses not being used anymore. But in this case, we use it together with our content services product. So the term cognitive, I'm sure we have heard this over and over today. Is that a comfortable term for everybody? What does cognitive mean? So we can have the Q&A session, but basically we are trying to give the system, the computer, the cloud, some kind of a human intelligence. So if we look outside the window and look down at the parking lot, as a human we can easily say, okay, I think most of the cars are white. But if you ask a computer, the first thing you'll have to tell it, what is a car? And what is a color? And then it'll have to tabulate all of this. And then it'll sort them, and then it'll say the most popular color is white. But with the cognitive approach, the computer vision will look outside the window the same as a person and say, there's mostly white cars. So if we take that approach to our documents and look at terms which we could have in an agreement, for example, and say, I would like to find documents with similar terms. So not exactly the same words, not exactly the same spelling, but the same intent, the same basic concept. this can be extended not only to documents. If you would go and search what is the definition of a document, actually document is information that can be comprehended by a human. So when we say document, together with our partner from Just Analytics, we are not only looking at scanned documents or paper-based scanned documents. We are looking at video, we are looking at photographs, we are looking at voice. So it could be customer service calls, where we look for patterns or connections with other repositories in the organization. So the cognitive search could go in and say, I would like to know where Lars Jeppesen has been discussed. And there might be some voice calls, there might be some contracts, there might be some agreements, and you could search across the organization and find those connections. Cognitive search in the enterprise is not about the search in the text box. As you saw earlier, we can create a customized tag cloud, but we can also build this into applications, so we can integrate with your ERP solution as a front end. Or what about your personal assistant, your Google Home or your Siri or your Cortana? Ask questions in natural language and get information back. That is where this is going. So with AI and cognitive, Enadoc brings you the solution with our partners from Just Analytics, and Microimage is our HR solution. And that's it for me. Any questions?